in every dispensation, if you look at this country since independence, the first 2 years have always been very complicated, and they have always been a challenge to the sitting president. Even if you were to go to, from 1963, by 66, KPU was moving out of government. If you look at, the Kibaki administration, by 2006, we also want to dissolve the cabinet. And this has happened consistently. And I think with a new constitution now, it's a high time to ask ourselves what didn't we do well, especially in this administration, what could have gone wrong. And from where I sit, that the issue of not listening to the people as well as we should be, we should listen to them, and kind of an alienated cabinet. You could see a cabinet that is unknown to the people on the grassroots, even though the cabinet is supposed to be technocratic as per the new constitution, unlike before when ministers were also members of parliament. Even now, the expectation is that the cabinet members must be on the ground to propagate government policies, to expound them to the people, and also to articulate the interests of the party that is in power, the government that is in power, and the interests of the president. What the sitting president is doing for the country. But what we saw was a kind of an alienation of the government from the people, and the bill became, the busting point, the point at which it had to break up. It was led by the youth of this country, which is unprecedented in this country, particularly the so-called, the Gen Z, very young people. And what also is different is that the demand was more of ethical transformation and economic transformation than political transformation, even though the curtain is very thin. So it's a very, very delicate situation where the president has had to dissolve his cabinet, and the issue has been more of ethical issues within the administration, and those are very, very challenging issues when the economy is not performing well, and then there are issues of ethical malpractices across the administration. That, to me, and the cabinet that is not able to reach out to the people and be able to advise the president, because the first line of advisory is the cabinet. Is a cabinet. That is the first line of advice. Every minister is an advisor to the president, and by the time we reached where we reached, I would have expected that the cabinet member should have told the president that things are not very good on the ground, and we need to take an about turn in the whole administration of things. So that, to me, seems to have been lacking. But what I also want to add is to say that I have seen the new appointments, all the appointments after the dissolution of the cabinet. But what we need to appreciate is that what matters is actually the quality of the ministers that you put in place and their commitment to this country. We have had ministers who are not even graduates in the past administrations, and I don't want to mention their names, and they performed very well. They're able to consult within the ministry, consult the technocrats, and they're able to deliver results in the administration. We have had very educated ministers who performed very poorly. So sometimes the issue of education and other considerations don't matter in a cabinet. The commitment and the passion by that minister to deliver results is very, very important. And that's why we somehow abandoned the performance contracting, or it has been more of symbolic than factual. I think it is a high time that the president put back the cabinet to performance contracting, so that each MDA, each ministry, the departments are able to operate on a very, very, very tangible results, which are measurable, and on which the minister can be held to account. So I think for me that seems to have been a major challenge in this administration.
So we saw a cabinet dissolution in the year 2005.
Yeah.
During the Kibaki era. At that time you were squarely in government, you were the head of public service.
I was a PS. I was in yes.
Interior.
Mm-hmm.
What similarities are there between the dissolution, 2005 dissolution, and this month's dissolution? Are there any similarities?
The similarities are there are similarities, of course. political similarities. The economy was pulling up. We had taken an economy that was minus 8%, very, almost moving towards state collapse. The economy had developed. Mzee Kibaki had already put up mechanisms to jumpstart the economy from the Moi administration. Then the referendum came up, and the government was defeated. The oranges defeated the bananas, and I was then in the executive in OP, and I know Mzee Kibaki had to dissolve the cabinet also, that is to get a new team that will be able to propel the country forward. So that was more of a political, the reasons were more political than economic. In this particular case, the issues have been more of ethical issues in terms of wastage of public resources and also the poverty, the economic challenges that are in the country. And when you combine the two, that political chemistry is not very good. So this is why, even as the new cabinet is formulated, their concentration on the economic revival, job creation, wealth creation, bringing down the interest rate to 1 digit. By now I thought it would have been very, very prudent to see the president sitting with all the banks and challenging them with the central bank to bring the interest rate of this country to 1 digit level, not the levels at which the percentage is. Because nobody can invest here, nobody can borrow money, all the government is borrowing money, so there is no money for transforming the economy. And I remember Mzee Kibaki used to meet with the central bank and Minister of Finance every Monday, and the challenge was to Njuguna, the outgoing minister. The challenge was, how do you bring the interest rates to 1 single digit? We didn't make it, but at least we moved to almost 10, 11, 12%, almost moving towards that percentage. And with the economy moving to 7.3%, which was fairly commendable. So these things are doable. Kenyans operate best, I think, during crisis. We had come from crisis and we were able to do very well. So even now, since the JZs have given their ultimatums and their issues to the president, what I would expect the president and the cabinet to do, at least the president for now, since he does not have the wider cabinet, is to give an action plan, give a work plan on the issues that you raised, whether it's IBC, whether it's creation of jobs, whether it's stimulating investments, the debt issues, misappropriation of resources, wastage, minimizing of wastages. This is my roadmap, and these are the deadlines, and they're specific and they're measurable. And then now that he has, once the cabinet is approved, and with the technocrats, the PSCs are still in office, it is possible to achieve a better country than we have done in the past. So for me, it's a moment that the president can seize and jumpstart the economy, rejuvenate the public service, whose morale is fairly low, and also create networks in the government, or what you call the whole of government approach, so that we have a cabinet that is working as a team, ministers and departments working as a team, inter and intra-ministerial cooperation and synergies are enhanced. People are working on mandates that have clearly defined, and the results are well tabulated in the performance contracting, which we have run away from, and I think it will be very, very unfortunate. We lost something called the service charter in the public service. We lost professionalism. A service charter guarantees the mwananchi the time within which you will get your service, and at what cost, whether free or you are charged. These things have been pulled down. The government cannot achieve much without a reformist approach in the way they do their things. And because people are used to getting services, say a passport within 2 weeks, if you are now getting it in 2 months, then the question is why? If you cannot get your IDs, if the costs are too high, if the services are not readily acceptable, you also cannot ignore the county governments. And they have also contributed to the lethargy and to the disillusionment that is in the country. The president and the sitting governors must be able to sit together and also work on their almost joint performance contracts. If it's in health, yes, the money is in the county, it's a devolved function, but most of the money is in Nairobi, so that governors also have to account on their ministries. If you go to some of even this county, some of the functions like dialysis, the machines that X-ray machines that are advanced category are not functioning, and they're not being budgeted for. So what are we telling wananchi to do. So if the counties don't perform, there is no way the president will ever appear to perform. Because people blame the president even for services that are supposed to be led by the county governments, either due to lack of flow of funds or due to lethargy or corruption within the county governments or the national government. It's also unfortunate. I would expect also that the funds that have been held in Nairobi, your Minister of Agriculture has more money than all the counties put together. Minister of Health has money possibly more than what the 47 counties have on the grassroots, and that's where wananchi live. So we expected that standards and policy would be left in Nairobi, but most of the activities that affect wananchi are in the grassroots. So this is something that the sitting cabinet could consider, whether they could also, in the future, as we move on, sit with the governors and come up with an action plan, a work plan, a performance contract, where each county is able to also show what they can deliver, in agriculture, in health, in roads. The most critical functions are in the county. So, and then the national government can come in, and then we see that whole of government approach working in synergy, and also stimulated that teamwork between the national government and the county governments. That has been lacking. In fact, at best, what we have seen are conflicts between the two arms, the two levels of government, and it has not been very, very helpful, either for the president or for the county government. So the disillusionment, of course, is directed to the president, but I can assure you it's also reflected at the grassroots. We want to reclaim standards. I know Kenyans want to reclaim their standards. The Gen Z, what they're saying, revive the economy, reduce corruption, create standards in the country, have standards that are measurable, have performance contracts introduced, have a government that has a service charter where services are guaranteed, and exactly, services are predictable, exactly what you're supposed to do when you go into a government service. We want to improve our image as a country. We want to improve our legitimacy. We want to improve our statehood. We want to improve our nationhood. And if we do not do this, Kenyans need to know that we are not operating as an island. This country is part of a global economy. So as of now, no investor will come to invest in this country when there is lawlessness or when there are threats to the statehood of this country. So I think we need to sit together as Kenyans and ask ourselves, where did the rain start beating us? How come an economy that was moving at 7.3% is now, nosediving? How come there are homes where people sleep hungry? The kids are no longer getting their bursaries. We cannot have free education as we used to have. So we need to get back to the business of the state and start addressing the issues of wananchi and listen to what wananchi are saying. Because the quality of a government depends on how well you listen to the people and implement what you're supposed to implement as a government. And that was a very major score for the Kibaki administration. Every department was mandated up to the grassroots, working with the then provincial administration, the GAO now. They were mandated to explain to the people what are the programs of the government, and then what are the challenges that are emerging, and this feedback to the national government, to the cabinet, and then policies are formulated, and so that the whole country works as a team. So I think that seems to be lacking, and this country cannot operate in silos, because we are differentially developed. Some areas of this country are fairly underdeveloped, other areas are well developed, but you find everybody is complaining because services apply to everybody in this country.
And maybe if you listen to the people on the ground, what the politicians have been saying, listening to the ground, people tend to comment or to remember the Kibaki administration even more than they are remembering the Uhuru Ruto administration. What is this that the Kibaki administration did that is not being done now? And that why was that administration that successful? What is it that they haven't managed to crack?
Yes.
Because you are among the top.
Yes.
In the top of the Kibaki administration. What is it that is not being done today?
And these are two levels. At the global level, we didn't take it for granted. We worked on the competitiveness of this country. How can this country be competitive? How can we be a destination of choice for investment and for tourism? And the whole government and the whole cabinet was geared towards, achieving that agenda. We had international communication systems marketing Kenya. We created parastatals whose work was meant to can invest to market Kenya to the international community. Locally, and you see the small things that are ignored are the worst. Locally, each chief, an assistant chief, and DC, and then the regional, the PC or the regional commissioner, they were mandated to hold 2 barazas per month with all the heads of departments, all the heads of ministries. And at times we would invite Nairobi, where we have major programs coming in to explain to the people what government is doing at the grassroots. As of now, I would expect even the governors would also join in, because services are universal and services are from government. And wananchi don't care whether services are from the national government or from the county government. So that seems to be a major loss in this administration. The last 2 administrations, the touch with the mwananchi at the grassroots and the inability to utilize the GAO system to advocate, to conduct advocacy for the public policies, implementation of projects at the grassroots, whether for the governor with the ward reps and the MCAs, with the national government officials. These people should work as a team, so the government is seen to be operating as a team. But after devolution, the governors are on their own, the national government is on its own, so there is nobody marketing the presidency or marketing the policies of the national government, and the ministers are available at the grassroots, and then they are going for maybe following the president to go and maybe see some cuttings or ribbons and so on. So the Wananchi are left on their own. In terms of services also, even Wananchi, say in Nyandarua here, wants to go to Harambe House to complain about maybe the governor or the DC or the PC or whoever, or the regional commissioner, there's no space in the OP for Wananchi to go there anymore. So it's up to you in the counties. You finish your matters in the county, or you finish your matters where you can finish them. And that disconnects in the national government and county government and Wananchi, I think that is a major glaring a missing point in the national government. So it's a very important question you ask. I know that maybe the issue is how do you do it? That those are matters of statecraft. People who know how to craft the state issues, to build on the statehood of a nation, to build on the nationhood of a nation, to enhance the legitimacy of a country, even what you call the hegemony, the political influence of a government of the highest degree. Those are lacking. So Wananchi on their own, governors on their own, corruption is on its own, and there's nobody, listening to what is happening very seriously on the ground. And then performance contracting is also gone. So what is left? Inflation is left to move on its own. These things need to be harnessed inside cabinet, inside the systems of government. There is an instrument, of course, in the Kibaki administration, which we used very well, called the NSAC, or the National Security Advisory Council, which works very closely with the National Security Council, headed by the President. And that instrument is not just about law and order. It's about checking what can the government do best and what is not being done in the country. In every ministry, you audit every ministry, and there are ministries whose underperformance have major repercussions on the performance, on the image of the government. I can say from where I am, because I'm also privy to what goes on, that particular committee has not been as aggressive as the NSAC was during the Kibaki administration. And the Mzee Kibaki knew exactly how to utilize that system. It comprises all the 3 arms of government, the key ministries in the national government, including security, foreign affairs, ministries like agriculture that are very key and they can also summon other PSs in the technocrats in the government to come and explain an issue that is very crucial to the people of this country. So that is not, I think the disconnect between the government and the people, as we see it, is what needs to be fixed very, very, very quickly. And that's what Jay-Z's are saying. The issues of Jay-Z should have been picked at the grassroots, not for them to come and demonstrate in Nairobi. It should have been arrested before. It seems to have been untapped before. I think that should have been, tapped by intelligence service, by the provincial, by the so-called GAO system. They should have told the president there is a problem. There's a problem. So that seems to be also a major problem, that I could pick a call and call the chief, even as head of public service, or call the DU, or call the PC and check what happened, who killed that person, who raped that child, what happened, what has been done. Then you're able to know, and also people in the field know, that even the head of public service can call a chief and find out what happened to wananchi. Government cannot be alien to its people. Because we are an elected democratic government, and our power stems from the people. So I think that inability to listen to our people, the business sector, including issues of taxation, I would have expected that we call a business community called KEPSA that we created to reach out to the business fraternity, called bankers, sit with them, and then be able to come up with better economic models in terms of taxation that don't antagonize wananchi. And we had the same problem that is with this administration, but we chose to expand the taxation base and correct what is not corrected, and most important, account for it and reduce extravagance in the administration. And that worked. And it can also work in this administration. So I think what the president needs is a team that supports him. From where I sit, I don't think he has found a team, including that cabinet. They did not support the president very well, and that's why we have ended up in this quagmire. And it can be corrected.
We've seen a group of 100 people marching in the CBD, like they have caught everybody, or security forces, they have been caught unawares, flat-footed. What do you think maybe that is not done correctly today?
I think what I would like to say is that we had a very robust and very dynamic and very proactive advisory services, both within the government and, as I've said, starting with the NSAC itself, which as I said comprises anybody who matters in a regime or in a government or in the state, whether you're talking about the defense or the police or the CID or the GAO team and the judiciary, the parliament, the three arms of government, the executive. They were all in that committee. So whatever decisions come in terms of intelligence, processing and advisory, you can be sure we were quite up to the task. Once in a while you could be caught off guard, say on issues of terrorism, but on matters internal, I can assure you, we have a very, very thorough, we have one of the most credible security systems in this country. But I think then what matters is the extent to which you utilize it, and then the extent to which you consume the intelligence that you get, and how you utilize that intelligence as an NSAC, and also as the end of the government or hand of state in the country, because ultimately the buck stops with the hand of state, and that's why you need a very, very credible NSAC team, a very credible cabinet that ring fences, that protects the presidency and makes sure that everything is not coming to your doorstep. The president doesn't have to go and answer who was shooting. There is a minister of internal security who should be accountable, held to account as to why at times we have seen like police who require more training on crowd control, why that is not happening. But I know we had a reservoir of very well trained police officers at all levels in terms of managing the crowds, and I know you have more equipments, but you need to skill the human resource on how to manage young demonstrators, middle-aged demonstrators, and even older demonstrators. You don't handle them the same way. So that seems to be a problem, that you had very good internal advisory, technocratically within the departments of government, and then nationally NSAC takes care of the whole horizon. But we also had an external team that joined with the internal say cabinet, what we call the NESC, the National Economic and Social Council, that brought in people from the Americas, people from Asia, people from China, people from Europe, experts, retired presidents who came in, and we gave them the issues that were concerning wananchi, say youth unemployment. And it is them who initially recommended that we formulate a Ministry of Youth with nothing but thinking about youth issues. And I can assure you it changed. It changed a lot, and we were able to come up with programs that made sure that youth began getting employment, whether it is issues of gender, they will tell us what is happening, what is the best practice internationally, so that you operate as a government that is operating internationally and not at just the local level. And then you compete internationally. If it is our markets or our goods, what is wrong with our coffee, with our pyrethrum, with our tea, with our sugar? Why is it that we are not able to export? We're importing more, and they're able to tell us how the international market is operating. Because in the final analysis, as I said, the JZs can ask what they're asking. I know the other business people asking what they're asking, wananchi asking what they're asking. But if you do not improve on the economy, if the economy does not improve, if you do not stimulate this economy to create wealth and to create employment, we will end up with the same demonstrations in this country. And that's why I said the first step would have been to call the banks and tell them, sit with them, negotiate with them, discuss with them, with the central bank, how do we bring down the interest rate in this country? How do we avail more resources for the private sector, not to the government borrowing, to the private sector to borrow and build the economy? I think that was a major differentiation in the administration where I was the head of public service, that the economic issues was the main issue in every department. What is your contribution to the national economy? So you need a very very effective whole of government approach, and this time you're including the governors now. You cannot create wealth without the county governments, and you cannot improve the image of the country if the governors are conducting business as usual, or the cabinet is conducting business as usual, methodologies in terms of public management or public finance. So that is the issue of ethics, chapter 10 of the article 10 of the Constitution. That needs to be given preference. We need to strengthen all the institutions that look into utilization of public resources, whether it's a controller and auditor, control of budget, control of auditor general, the DCI, the EACC, all institutions that check on wastage of public resources. And we also had instances in the Kibaki administration where we also had to ask some ministers to step aside, to be investigated because of misconduct, either ethical misconduct. So this thing has not started now. It has been on, and it is a continuous battle from the time of Christ, time of creation, and it will continue. So it's up to the sitting president to pronounce himself, especially on matters of corruption. Does he commit to zero tolerance to corruption? And then that is seen in deed and in action and in word. And then you can have the ministries towing the line and accounting for each penny in the republic. Yeah.
Again, there has been work going on that we are possibly headed for another government of national unity. This could be this, if it happens, it will be happened in the second
Yes.
2008.
Yes.
First one in 2008.
Yes.
Think that in your own opinion, do you think the dynamics are the same, or what is your take on that?
I think my take is very simple, that we should allow the president to come up with a new action plan for the country. He needs to come up with a new strategic plan for the country. It is very clear that what has been happening since he took over to date, has some deficits, and he has agreed to look into them, and he wants to bring in various stakeholders from across the divide, so that because nobody has the monopoly of strategies or ideas in terms of running a government. And I think that he should be allowed to pick the best from where he thinks he can get the best. It may be a government of national unity, or it may be experts from various quarters to come in and help him to put the economy first and foremost, together, to jumpstart the economy and let wananchi have something to eat, have medicine, have school, tuition fees, and have young people get jobs and opportunities, and also create capital. Capitalize the grassroots. It's a major issue that you do not have money in the counties. Suppliers have not been paid. So these are quick wins. If you pay suppliers, start availing money at the grassroots, stop borrowing by government, let the private sector borrow, and let's invite a private equity from outside the country to come and help us to rejuvenate the economy. It's easier said than done, but it happened. We did it in the Kibaki administration, and it is still doable. And over-taxation is not the solution. But taxation must be done, but it must be sustainable. It must be affordable, and it must be accounted for. If that is done, if we account for what we collect in this country, you might not need so much of IMF, other than maybe to clear, the debts which appear to have gone out of the marks that are acceptable in the economy.
Maybe lastly, talked about synergy in the government, working relationships between different arms of the government. there are some things that we've had in the last administration and the current administration that we never had during Kibaki administration.
Yes.
For instance, we had the last administration. It was an open secret that the president and his deputy were not reading from the same script.
Yeah.
The same script happens or appears to be replaying again in this administration, just only 2 years down the line.
Yeah.
What could be causing this in your what could be done to avoid this?
It's a very difficult, it's a difficult issue, but also very easy issue. I mean, very simple issue. I was involved in the crafting of the current constitution, and we deliberately refused to give too many functions to the deputy president or to the vice president. Even in the first constitution, you could see he was supposed to deputize the president, and the two of them should work as a team and create their own synergy. Because in any case, in the current constitution, they're elected together, and each brings whatever he brings on the table. Then they formulate the government together, and they work together. I think it will be suicidal, and it will be betrayal of the people for the deputy and the president not to work as a team. Because what will happen is that even the ministries will never work as a team. So I can only appeal to them to say again, look at the Kibaki model. We had the vice president, Kalonzo Musyoka, a very fine gentleman. We had Raila Odinga, a very fine gentleman. We never agreed 100%, but we were able to, when it comes to matters of national interest, we spoke one language. When there were differences, unless they were of very, very major nature, say appointments. I wanted this one, but this one has been appointed. And there were very, very few. We tried as much as possible. We would circulate names between the president and his team, and so that we agree on who to appoint at any one time. So I think it's just wisdom. It's just to appeal for wisdom, especially on the deputy president, because ultimately you become the loser. Because the president is the president, and he's the head of state, he's the head of government, he's the commander-in-chief. The deputy is a helper, is an assistant, a principal assistant to the president. I think a lot of wisdom is required on the part of the deputy president, but also on the president, that when his deputy has complaints, then he's not subjected to ridicule, either by colleagues in the cabinet or by other political activists who have nothing to lose, and so that the people lead different things and different signals. I think that would be my take. They should work as a team as much as possible. It is not a love affair. They don't have to love each other, but they have a mandate to achieve in this country. So the deputy president currently chairs the cabinet meetings. After the cabinet meeting, he chairs the meetings of the cabinet on how to implement what was approved in the main cabinet. So I think there's an opportunity to do well